Most people spend their lives reacting to opinions, reacting to criticism, reacting to situations they cannot control, and reacting to people who were never truly important in their journey. Very few realize that constant reaction quietly steals mental peace, clarity, and direction. The real shift begins when a person understands a simple but powerful truth: not everything deserves attention. Attention is energy, and where energy flows, life follows. Learning when to withdraw that energy becomes a silent superpower. From childhood, many are conditioned to seek approval. Praise feels like validation, and criticism feels like rejection. This creates an invisible dependency where self-worth gets tied to external voices. A casual remark from someone can disturb an entire day. A stranger's opinion on appearance, lifestyle, or decisions can create unnecessary self-doubt. Over time, this habit turns into emotional slavery. Instead of living freely, people start living defensively. They dress to impress, speak to please, and make choices to avoid judgment. Peace slowly disappears because the mind never rests. It is always scanning for who said what and why. There is a different way to live, and it begins with understanding that most opinions carry no real value. People speak from their own fears, insecurities, jealousy, and limited experiences. Someone who never took risks will call ambition foolish. Someone afraid of failure will mock bold attempts. Someone unhappy with their own life may criticize others just to feel superior for a moment. When these voices are taken seriously, they become heavy burdens. But when seen for what they truly are, projections of others, their power fades instantly. Ignoring does not mean weakness or avoidance. It means choosing mental discipline over emotional impulse. It means deciding that inner stability is more important than winning every argument or correcting every misunderstanding. Not every comment requires a response, and not every insult deserves defense. Silence often protects energy better than explanation. Many conflicts survive only because both sides keep feeding them attention. Remove attention, and unnecessary drama slowly dies on its own. This practice becomes especially important in relationships. People often try to control how others perceive them. They over-explain intentions, repeatedly justify actions, and constantly seek reassurance. This creates emotional exhaustion. A healthier approach is accepting that misunderstandings are natural and that not everyone will see the full picture. Those who truly care will try to understand without endless clarification. Those determined to misunderstand would never be satisfied anyway. Recognizing this saves emotional effort and strengthens self-respect. In professional life, the power of ignoring becomes even more valuable. Workplaces are filled with competition, comparison, and subtle negativity. Gossip travels fast, criticism flows easily, and small mistakes are often exaggerated. If every whisper becomes a source of stress, productivity collapses. The mind loses focus, creativity weakens, and confidence drops. But those who learn selective attention stay steady. They listen only to feedback that helps them grow and ignore noise that distracts them. This quiet filtering system allows progress without emotional turbulence. Social media has intensified the problem of overreaction. People constantly compare lifestyles, achievements, appearances, and relationships. A few curated images can make someone feel inadequate about their entire life. Negative comments from strangers can ruin moods. The pressure to respond, defend, and prove oneself becomes endless. But much of this digital noise has no real impact on personal growth or happiness. Learning to scroll without emotional involvement, to detach from unnecessary debates, and to ignore validation-seeking behavior creates mental freedom. Life becomes lighter when every notification no longer feels important. Another area where ignoring proves powerful is dealing with failure and setbacks. Many people replay past mistakes repeatedly in their minds. They analyze what went wrong, blame themselves harshly, and imagine how others must be judging them. This constant mental replay strengthens regret and weakens confidence. While reflection is useful, overthinking becomes self-sabotage. There comes a point where the healthiest step is to ignore the noise of the past and focus on present action. Progress requires forward movement, not emotional attachment to what cannot be changed. The same principle applies to fear. Fear often grows louder when given attention. Small doubts become large obstacles when the mind keeps feeding them. Imagined worst-case scenarios start feeling re-engagement and which deserve dismissal. This selective focus strengthens courage and decision-making ability. Ignoring also plays a key role in protecting personal boundaries. Some people habitually criticize, manipulate, or provoke others to gain control. They seek reactions because reactions give them influence. When faced with calm indifference, their tactics lose effectiveness. Emotional manipulators thrive on drama, arguments, and visible frustration. When their words fail to trigger responses, they gradually lose interest. Silence becomes a shield that protects dignity and emotional balance. However, wise ignoring requires discernment. Not everything should be dismissed. Constructive feedback, genuine concerns from loved ones, and important responsibilities must never be neglected. The art lies in distinguishing meaningful signals from useless noise. Mature individuals develop an internal filter that asks simple questions. Does this matter in the long run? Does responding improve the situation? Does this align with my values and goals? If the answer is no, disengagement becomes the smarter choice. As this mindset develops, emotional independence grows naturally. Self-worth no longer depends on applause or criticism. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by values rather than social pressure. Mental peace improves because fewer external disturbances are allowed inside. Life starts feeling more intentional and less reactive. There is also a subtle confidence that emerges from this practice. The need to prove oneself reduces. Arguments feel less tempting. Petty competitions lose appeal. Time and energy get redirected toward meaningful goals, relationships, and personal growth. Instead of trying to control how everyone thinks, focus shifts toward controlling one's own thoughts and actions. This internal control brings stability that external approval can never provide. Gradually, ignoring transforms from a defensive tool into a lifestyle philosophy. It teaches emotional economy, investing attention only where returns are meaningful. It encourages simplicity in thinking and clarity in action. The mind becomes less cluttered, reactions become measured, and choices become deliberate. What once triggered anger or anxiety begins to feel insignificant. And yet, mastering this ability is not an overnight process. Years of conditioning make people sensitive to judgment and eager for validation. The habit of reacting is deeply rooted, but with awareness and practice, small improvements begin to appear. One starts pausing before responding. One learns to let minor remarks pass. One stops explaining every decision. These small shifts gradually build strong emotional resilience. In time, a person realizes a profound truth. Peace is not found by controlling the world but by controlling attention. The world will always have noise, opinions, conflicts, and distractions. Trying to fix everything is exhausting. Choosing what deserves attention is liberating. And once someone tastes this quiet mental freedom, a deeper question naturally arises. If ignoring small disturbances creates peace, what other invisible habits might be silently controlling life without notice? There comes a quiet turning point in life when a person begins to notice how much energy has been wasted on things that never truly mattered. Small arguments, unnecessary explanations, trying to correct every misunderstanding, and carrying the emotional weight of other people's opinions slowly drain the mind. At first, this exhaustion feels normal because constant reaction has become a habit. But once awareness grows, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. A person starts seeing how every reaction hands over emotional control to someone else. And in that realization, a new kind of strength begins to form, the strength to step back. Emotional maturity is not about expressing every feeling loudly. It is about choosing which feelings deserve expression. Many situations in daily life are simply tests of emotional discipline. Someone may speak rudely, another may doubt your abilities, or a colleague may try to provoke insecurity through comparison. The immediate impulse is to respond, defend, or prove them wrong. But reacting instantly often creates more disturbance than resolution. Words spoken in emotional heat rarely bring clarity. They usually create regret. Choosing to ignore in such moments is not suppression but intelligent restraint. It protects peace of mind and prevents temporary emotions from creating permanent damage. A powerful shift happens when a person stops needing the last word. The desire to win every argument often comes from ego, not wisdom. Ego seeks validation, superiority, and control. Wisdom seeks peace, clarity, and the urge to dominate every discussion. Communication becomes lighter and more meaningful. Silence starts replacing pointless debates, and relationships improve because unnecessary friction disappears. Ignoring also strengthens self-trust. When people constantly seek advice and approval from everyone around them, their inner voice becomes weak. Too many external opinions create confusion and self-doubt. While guidance is valuable, overdependence on others' perspectives slowly erodes confidence in personal judgment. Selective ignoring helps in protecting that inner voice. It allows space for independent thinking. Decisions become more aligned with personal values rather than social pressure. Over time, this builds a stable sense of identity that does not shake easily under criticism. There is also a deep connection between ignoring and emotional healing. Painful memories often stay alive because they are repeatedly revisited. The mind replays old conversations, betrayals, failures, and embarrassing moments as if they happened yesterday. Each replay refreshes the emotional wound. While learning from experience is important, constantly reliving pain prevents recovery. Ignoring the emotional pull of the past does not mean denying what happened, it means refusing to let it control the present. Healing accelerates when attention shifts from why it happened to what can be done now. Another subtle benefit of ignoring is freedom from unnecessary comparison. Constant comparison is one of the biggest sources of dissatisfaction. Someone will always be richer, more attractive, more successful, or more talented. When attention stays fixed on others' achievements, personal progress feels inadequate. Social comparison creates artificial pressure and steals the joy of individual growth. But when people learn to ignore external races and focus on their own path, progress becomes peaceful. Goals feel personal rather than competitive. Satisfaction grows because effort is measured against personal improvement, not against someone else's highlight reel. Ignoring distractions also improves focus and productivity. Modern life is filled with constant interruptions, notifications, opinions, trending topics, online debates, and endless entertainment. Attention keeps shifting from one stimulus to another, leaving little room for deep thinking. This scattered focus reduces efficiency and increases stress. The ability to ignore non-essential noise becomes a mental filter that protects concentration. When attention is directed only toward meaningful tasks, work quality improves and mental fatigue decreases. The mind feels less crowded and more purposeful. In personal growth, ignoring comfort can be just as powerful as ignoring negativity. Comfort zones feel safe but often limit potential. The mind resists effort, avoids discomfort, and seeks easy distractions. Ignoring the urge to procrastinate, ignoring the temptation of instant pleasure, and ignoring excuses strengthen discipline. Success in any field requires the ability to stay focused despite internal resistance. This form of ignoring builds mental toughness and long-term consistency. Financial decision-making also benefits from selective attention. Many people spend money to impress others or to match social trends. Lifestyle inflation often comes from social pressure rather than genuine need. Trying to keep up with others leads to unnecessary financial stress. Ignoring societal display culture helps individuals prioritize long-term stability over short-term appearance. Financial peace grows when spending aligns with values instead of public perception. Another important dimension is ignoring praise. While appreciation feels good, becoming dependent on praise creates vulnerability. If motivation depends only on recognition, productivity drops when appreciation is absent. Praise can sometimes distract from continuous improvement by creating false satisfaction. Those who learn to accept compliments gracefully but ignore the need for constant validation maintain steady progress. Their work is driven by purpose rather than applause. Ignoring negativity does not mean becoming emotionally cold or indifferent. It means responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Kindness, empathy, and understanding remain essential qualities. The difference lies in emotional boundaries. A person can care deeply without absorbing every emotional disturbance around them. This balance allows compassion without burnout. Over time, the habit of selective ignoring reshapes personality. Calmness replaces impulsiveness. Patience replaces irritability. Clarity replaces confusion. Situations that once triggered anxiety begin to feel manageable. Emotional reactions slow down, allowing thoughtful response. Currency. Wherever attention goes, emotional investment follows. Investing it wisely leads to growth. Wasting it leads to stress. Just as financial wealth depends on mindful spending, mental wealth depends on mindful attention. Not every situation deserves emotional spending. Gradually, life becomes less dramatic and more intentional. Noise reduces. Meaningful conversations increase. Personal goals gain priority over social distractions. Mental space opens up for creativity, learning, and self-reflection. Happiness begins to feel calmer and more stable rather than loud and temporary. As this practice deepens, a person starts experiencing a rare kind of confidence, the confidence of detachment. Situations no longer control emotions as easily. Opinions no longer dictate self-worth. External chaos no longer creates internal storms. This detachment is not distance from life but freedom within it. And when someone begins living with this quiet strength, another deeper layer of understanding starts to unfold. if ignoring the external world brings clarity, what happens when a person begins to ignore the inner noise that has been running endlessly for years? The deepest noise a person faces is not from the outside world but from within. Even in complete silence, the mind keeps talking. Thoughts jump from one worry to another, replaying past mistakes, imagining future problems, creating invisible fears, and forming endless internal conversations. This constant mental chatter quietly consumes energy and disturbs peace. Many people try to control external situations while remaining unaware that their inner world is where most turbulence begins. True emotional freedom starts when a person learns to observe this internal noise without getting trapped in it. The mind has a natural tendency to hold on to negativity. A single criticism can outweigh 10 compliments. One failure can overshadow years of success. An awkward moment can replay repeatedly in memory, creating unnecessary embarrassment long after others have forgotten it. This happens because the brain is wired to detect threats and protect survival. But in modern life, this mechanism often exaggerates emotional threats that are not truly dangerous. The result is overthinking, anxiety, and self-doubt. Ignoring these exaggerated mental alarms becomes essential for psychological balance. Overthinking creates an illusion of control. The mind believes that repeatedly analyzing a problem will eventually produce certainty. In reality, excessive thinking often creates confusion instead of clarity. Small decisions become heavy, simple situations feel complicated, and imagined outcomes appear real. Mental fatigue increases while solutions remain distant. Choosing to ignore repetitive, unproductive thought cycles helps conserve mental energy. It allows attention to shift toward constructive action instead of endless analysis. A powerful practice emerges when a person begins separating thoughts from identity. Not every thought represents truth. Thoughts are mental events that appear and disappear, influenced by mood, past experiences, and environment. However, many people assume that every thought deserves attention and belief. This creates emotional entanglement. A negative thought about self-worth can affect confidence. A doubtful thought about the future can reduce motivation. Learning to ignore thoughts that do not serve growth creates emotional distance. It allows the mind to function without dominating the sense of self. Fear is one of the strongest internal voices that demands attention. It often disguises itself as caution or practicality. While genuine danger requires alertness, imagined fear frequently limits potential. Fear of judgment prevents expression. Fear of failure prevents effort. Fear of rejection prevents connection. Each time fear is obeyed without question, confidence weakens. Ignoring irrational fear does not eliminate it instantly, but it reduces its authority. Courage grows when action continues despite mental resistance. Similarly, the inner critic constantly evaluates personal performance. It highlights flaws, compares abilities, and points out imperfections. While self-improvement requires honest reflection, excessive self-criticism damages self-esteem. The inner critic often uses harsh language that one would never use for others. Constant internal judgment creates emotional pressure and dissatisfaction. Ignoring this harsh tone and replacing it with balanced self-awareness encourages healthier growth. Progress becomes sustainable when guided by encouragement rather than punishment. Another internal disturbance comes from the desire to control everything. The mind seeks certainty in relationships, career paths, finances, and future outcomes. When reality acceptance replaces resistance, making it easier to adapt to changing circumstances. Emotional stability improves when expectations become realistic and adaptable. Regret is another heavy mental burden that thrives on attention. The mind revisits missed opportunities, wrong decisions, and past actions that cannot be changed. These memories often carry guilt and self-blame. While reflection can guide better future choices, continuous regret traps a person in emotional stagnation. Ignoring the emotional intensity attached to past mistakes helps shift focus toward present possibilities. Forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, becomes easier when attention moves from punishment to progress. Impatience also creates inner noise. Modern culture promotes instant results, quick success, and immediate gratification. When progress feels slow, frustration builds. The mind starts doubting efforts and questioning direction. This restlessness often leads to quitting just before meaningful results appear. Ignoring the urge for instant outcomes strengthens perseverance. Patience allows processes to unfold naturally and reduces emotional pressure caused by unrealistic timelines. Jealousy is another emotion that demands attention but rarely provides value. Comparing personal life with others' achievements creates feelings of inadequacy. The mind begins questioning fairness and self-worth. However, jealousy often ignores unseen struggles behind others' successes. Ignoring comparison-based jealousy allows appreciation for individual journeys. Gratitude grows when attention shifts from what is missing to what is already present. Mental peace also improves when people ignore the need to please everyone. The desire for universal approval is unrealistic and emotionally exhausting. Trying to satisfy conflicting expectations leads to confusion and identity loss. Every individual has unique values, priorities, and perspectives. Ignoring the pressure to meet everyone's standards helps preserve authenticity. Relationships become more genuine when interactions are guided by sincerity rather than performance. As this inner discipline strengthens, emotional reactions become less automatic. A gap forms between stimulus and response. In that gap lies freedom, the freedom to choose calmness over anger, understanding over defensiveness, and silence over argument. This pause allows thoughtful action instead of impulsive reaction. Emotional intelligence grows naturally when awareness replaces instant judgment. Mindfulness develops as a byproduct of selective ignoring. Awareness of the present moment increases when mental clutter decreases. Simple experiences become more vivid, conversations feel deeper, work feels more engaging, and rest feels more refreshing. Life slows down mentally even if external pace remains fast. This presence enhances clarity and reduces stress. Over time, ignoring internal negativity builds strong emotional resilience. Challenges still appear, but their psychological impact reduces. Setbacks feel temporary rather than permanent. Criticism feels informative rather than destructive. Uncertainty feels manageable rather than overwhelming. Emotional balance remains stable across changing circumstances. A person who masters this art develops quiet confidence. This confidence does not seek attention or approval. It comes from inner alignment and mental clarity. Decisions become firmer, communication becomes calmer, and actions become more deliberate. The external world may remain unpredictable, but the internal foundation stays steady. Eventually, a profound realization emerges. Peace is not achieved by silencing every thought but by choosing which thoughts deserve attention. The mind will always generate noise, just as the world will always produce distractions. Freedom lies in selective engagement. Attention becomes intentional rather than habitual. And as this awareness deepens, an even more meaningful transformation begins to take shape. The realization that ignoring is not just a defensive tool for protecting peace, but a powerful creative force that can reshape priorities, relationships, and the entire direction of life. There is a quiet strength in people who no longer feel the need to react to everything. Their calm presence is not accidental, it is built through deliberate choices made repeatedly over time. They have learned that life becomes clearer when attention is used with intention. Instead of being pulled in every direction by noise, drama, and emotional impulses, they move with focus. This way of living creates space for something far more meaningful than constant reaction. It creates space for creation. When attention is no longer wasted on trivial matters, mental energy, even relationships improve because communication becomes thoughtful rather than reactive. Ignoring distractions does not shrink life, it expands the capacity to engage with what truly matters. Many people unknowingly allow minor issues to control major portions of their day. A small disagreement ruins hours of productivity. A negative comment overshadows positive achievements. A delayed plan creates disproportionate frustration. These reactions appear normal but slowly condition the mind to operate in stress mode. Over time, this reduces emotional endurance. However, when a person begins to ignore minor disturbances, emotional stability strengthens. Problems are seen in proportion rather than exaggeration. This balanced perspective prevents small setbacks from becoming mental storms. This approach also transforms how success is pursued. Instead of chasing external validation, focus shifts toward meaningful progress. Goals become clearer because they are no longer influenced by social comparison. Effort becomes consistent because motivation comes from purpose rather than applause. Ignoring public opinion allows individuals to experiment, take risks, and follow unconventional paths without fear of judgment. Many groundbreaking ideas in history emerged from minds that ignored ridicule and trusted their vision. Personal identity becomes stronger through selective disengagement. When individuals constantly react to social expectations, they slowly lose their authentic voice. They adapt opinions to fit in, suppress preferences to avoid criticism, and reshape personalities to gain approval. Over time, this creates inner conflict and dissatisfaction. Ignoring unnecessary social pressure protects individuality. It allows a person to live in alignment with personal values rather than collective trends. Time management also improves significantly. Distractions often appear harmless but accumulate into major time loss. Endless scrolling, gossip, unproductive debates, and repetitive worrying consume hours without adding value. Ignoring these time-draining activities frees space for learning, skill building, and meaningful rest. Life feels more organized and intentional when attention is directed consciously. Another powerful shift happens in emotional relationships. Many conflicts escalate because both sides seek to prove their correctness. Arguments grow when words are used to win rather than understand. However, when one person chooses to ignore provocation, emotional intensity decreases. Silence prevents escalation. Calm listening encourages resolution. Relationships become healthier when ego-driven reactions are replaced with composed responses. Ignoring also plays a transformative role in leadership and influence. Strong leaders do not react impulsively to criticism or pressure. They evaluate situations calmly and focus on solutions rather than emotional display. By ignoring panic and maintaining clarity, they inspire trust. Their stability becomes a source of reassurance for others. Leadership is strengthened when attention remains fixed on long-term vision instead of short-term emotional turbulence. Mental health benefits deeply from this practice. Constant exposure to negativity, whether through news, social media, or toxic environments, increases stress hormones and emotional fatigue. Ignoring unnecessary exposure protects psychological well-being. The mind becomes lighter when it is not overloaded with distressing information that offers no constructive value. Emotional energy is preserved for meaningful challenges rather than scattered across endless concerns. Spiritual growth also connects strongly with intentional ignoring. Inner peace deepens when attachment to external validation reduces. A person begins to experience contentment independent of circumstances. Silence becomes comfortable rather than awkward. Solitude becomes refreshing rather than lonely. Ignoring superficial desires creates space for deeper self-awareness and reflection. As this discipline matures, patience becomes natural. The urge to rush outcomes decreases. A person understands that meaningful achievements require consistent effort and time. Ignoring impatience prevents impulsive decisions and careless mistakes. Steady progress replaces hurried action. Self-respect grows quietly alongside this mindset. When individuals stop entertaining disrespect, manipulation, or negativity, they send a clear internal message about personal worth. Ignoring toxic behavior reinforces healthy boundaries. It teaches others how to treat them without confrontation or hostility. Dignity is preserved not through aggression but through calm disengagement. Gradually, emotional independence becomes a defining trait. Mood no longer depends heavily on external praise, becomes less dramatic and more grounded. A deeper awareness also emerges about the finite nature of attention and time. Every day offers limited mental energy. Spending it carelessly leads to exhaustion without fulfillment. Investing it wisely creates growth and satisfaction. Ignoring becomes a filter that protects this valuable resource. With consistent practice, individuals start recognizing that peace is not fragile. It does not disappear because of external noise unless allowed. Inner calm can coexist with outer chaos when attention remains disciplined. This realization brings profound emotional security. Over time, ignoring evolves from a protective habit into a creative force. It shapes priorities, clarifies values, and directs life toward meaningful goals. Distractions lose influence. Purpose gains strength. Each decision reflects awareness rather than impulse. And eventually, a person begins to see life through a different lens, understanding that true power does not lie in controlling every situation, but in mastering where attention rests. When attention is governed wisely, emotions stabilize, actions become deliberate, and life moves with quiet confidence. From this point, a natural curiosity arises about how this practice can be applied deliberately in everyday routines, relationships, ambitions, and personal growth to create a life that feels not just peaceful, but deeply purposeful. A meaningful life is rarely built through dramatic changes. It is shaped through small daily choices that quietly direct attention. Every morning begins with a subtle decision about where the mind will focus. Some people wake up and immediately absorb stress, checking notifications, comparing lives, and anticipating problems before the day even starts. Others begin with calm intention, choosing clarity over noise. This difference in attention sets the emotional tone for the entire day. Learning to ignore early distractions creates a mental environment where thoughtful action becomes easier. Daily routines offer countless opportunities to practice selective ignoring. Minor inconveniences appear constantly: traffic delays, slow internet, misplaced items, unexpected schedule changes. While these situations feel irritating, reacting emotionally rarely improves them. Frustration drains energy that could be used productively. When a person learns to ignore small disturbances, patience increases naturally. The mind remains steady, allowing focus to remain on meaningful tasks rather than temporary discomforts. Work environments also test emotional discipline regularly. Differences in opinions, unexpected criticism, or competitive behavior can easily trigger stress. The instinct to defend reputation or prove competence may lead to unnecessary conflict. However, ignoring ego-driven reactions allows professionalism to remain intact. Listening calmly, responding thoughtfully, and disengaging from unproductive debates strengthens credibility. Over time, consistent composure builds a reputation for maturity and reliability. Family and close relationships present a different emotional challenge. Familiarity often reduces formal boundaries, making emotional reactions more intense. Small misunderstandings escalate because individuals expect to be fully understood without explanation. In such situations, ignoring the urge to react instantly creates space for empathy. A calm pause allows emotions to settle and prevents hurtful words spoken in anger. Relationships become more harmonious when emotional impulses are managed with patience. Parenting, mentorship, and caregiving especially benefit from this mindset. Younger individuals often express emotions impulsively, testing limits and patience. Reacting harshly to every mistake may create fear rather than understanding. Ignoring minor behavioral fluctuations while addressing meaningful concerns with calm guidance encourages emotional safety. This balanced response strengthens trust and communication. The habit of selective attention also transforms personal ambition. Many people delay goals because they fear judgment or failure. They imagine negative outcomes repeatedly, creating mental barriers before taking action. Ignoring imagined criticism and focusing on practical steps builds momentum. Confidence grows through action, not overanalysis. Each small step weakens fear and strengthens belief in personal capability. Health and well-being also improve when unnecessary mental stress is ignored. Constant worrying about possibilities that may never happen increases anxiety and affects physical health. Stress hormones rise, sleep quality decreases, and concentration weakens. Ignoring hypothetical fears and focusing on present realities calms the nervous system. Simple practices like mindful breathing and peer lifestyles often encourage unnecessary spending. The urge for instant gratification can overshadow long-term priorities. Ignoring temporary temptations allows wiser financial planning. Savings grow, investments become thoughtful, and financial stability improves gradually. This mindset also reshapes social interactions. Not every comment requires clarification, and not every disagreement demands resolution. Casual remarks often carry no deep intention but can be misinterpreted when overanalyzed. Ignoring trivial social friction prevents unnecessary mental stress. Conversations become lighter when every word is not examined for hidden meaning. Digital life especially requires disciplined ignoring. Endless information competes for attention every second. News cycles highlight negativity, online debates amplify conflict, and entertainment platforms encourage continuous consumption. Without awareness, hours disappear in passive scrolling. Ignoring algorithm-driven distractions helps reclaim control over time. Intentional usage of technology supports learning and connection rather than mindless engagement. Emotional resilience strengthens as this practice becomes natural. Unexpected setbacks no longer feel devastating. Plans may change, mistakes may occur, and people may disappoint, yet emotional balance remains stable. Ignoring the instinct to magnify problems allows solutions to appear more clearly. Challenges are approached with practicality instead of panic. Self-image also becomes healthier. Many insecurities grow because attention remains fixed on perceived flaws. Replaying imperfections reinforces dissatisfaction. Ignoring harsh self-judgment allows self-acceptance to develop. Growth becomes motivated by self-respect rather than self-criticism. Gratitude naturally increases when attention shifts away from constant dissatisfaction. Instead of focusing on what is missing, awareness expands toward what is present. Simple moments bring contentment, meaningful conversations, productive work, peaceful rest. Ignoring the endless chase for external validation allows inner satisfaction to grow. As emotional noise reduces, intuition becomes clearer. Decisions feel aligned with personal values rather than influenced by social pressure. Trust in personal judgment strengthens. Life choices become more intentional and less reactive. Over time, selective ignoring creates emotional space. This space allows reflection, creativity, and meaningful connection. The mind no longer feels crowded by trivial concerns. Energy becomes available for purposeful effort and genuine enjoyment. Eventually, ignoring evolves into quiet wisdom. A person recognizes which battles deserve effort and which deserve silence. Emotional reactions become conscious choices rather than automatic habits. This awareness protects peace without disconnecting from reality. And in this steady state of clarity, a deeper understanding unfolds, that mastering attention is not about avoiding life, but about engaging with it more meaningfully. By ignoring what diminishes energy and focusing on what enriches growth, life transforms from chaotic reaction into deliberate creation. There comes a stage in personal growth where silence begins to feel more powerful than expression. A person no longer feels the urge to respond to every opinion, correct every misunderstanding, or participate in every discussion. This silence is not born from weakness or lack of awareness, but from a deep understanding of emotional economy. Energy is limited, and spending it wisely becomes more important than proving a point. In this stage, ignoring becomes effortless because clarity has replaced impulsiveness. Emotional triggers lose their intensity when they are not constantly entertained. Situations that once caused anger now appear insignificant. Words that once felt offensive begin to feel like mere sounds shaped by someone else's mindset. This emotional detachment allows individuals to observe without absorbing negativity. They recognize that not every behavior deserves reaction and not every comment requires interpretation. The ability to remain unaffected becomes a quiet form of strength. As inner stability increases, external validation loses its grip. Praise is appreciated but no longer necessary for motivation. Criticism is evaluated calmly without feeling personally attacked. This balance allows individuals to maintain consistent performance regardless of fluctuating public opinion. Their sense of worth becomes internally anchored rather than externally dependent. Emotional independence like this creates lasting confidence. Relationships also evolve under this mindset. Emotional dependence reduces, and connections become healthier. People stop expecting others to change people forcefully. Acceptance grows naturally. This shift reduces friction and builds deeper emotional bonds. Conflict resolution becomes more mature. Rather than escalating disagreements through reactive language, individuals learn to pause and assess the situation calmly. They understand that many arguments stem from misunderstandings fueled by ego. Ignoring the need to win allows space for mutual respect. Silence is used strategically to prevent emotional overflow. Conversations become solutions rather than competitions. Professional environments reward this composure. Individuals who remain calm under pressure are seen as reliable and trustworthy. They do not engage in gossip or react emotionally to workplace politics. By ignoring distractions and focusing on performance, they build credibility. Their steady demeanor influences team morale and encourages rational decision-making. Leadership naturally develops from this emotional discipline. People are drawn to those who remain balanced during uncertainty. Calm individuals create psychological safety for others. Their responses are measured, and their decisions are thoughtful. Ignoring panic allows them to see solutions clearly. This steadiness inspires confidence and fosters cooperation. Mental health strengthens significantly as emotional clutter reduces. Anxiety decreases because imagined scenarios no longer dominate thoughts. Depression linked to overthinking and comparison begins to lighten. The mind experiences longer periods of calm focus. Emotional recovery becomes faster after setbacks. Inner peace feels stable rather than temporary. Spiritual awareness deepens when attention shifts inward. Silence becomes meaningful rather than uncomfortable. Solitude feels restorative instead of isolating. Ignoring constant stimulation allows individuals to connect with their deeper values and purpose. Reflection becomes clearer without mental noise. Gratitude grows naturally when distractions fade. Self-discipline becomes more consistent. Ignoring procrastination, excuses, and short-term temptations builds long-term progress. Individuals begin to act based on priorities rather than moods. This strengthens reliability and personal integrity. Small consistent actions replace irregular bursts of motivation. Time perception also changes. Moments feel fuller when attention is not scattered. Simple activities such as reading, walking, or meaningful conversation bring deeper satisfaction. Ignoring multitasking improves focus and reduces mental fatigue. Life feels less rushed and more intentional. Emotional intelligence expands through selective disengagement. Individuals become better at understanding others' emotions without absorbing them. They listen patiently and respond thoughtfully. Ignoring the urge to judge quickly fosters empathy and respectful communication. Gradually, personal identity stabilizes. External trends lose influence over choices. Individuals develop a clear sense of values and direction. Ignoring societal pressure preserves authenticity. This alignment between inner beliefs and outer actions creates psychological harmony. Resilience becomes a defining trait. Life's uncertainties no longer create overwhelming stress. Individuals adapt calmly to change and recover steadily from disappointment. Ignoring the impulse to dramatize setbacks allows practical problem solving. Emotional balance remains intact during challenges. The habit of mindful ignoring also encourages creative thinking. A calm mind generates clearer ideas and innovative solutions. Without constant distraction, deeper focus becomes possible. Creative energy flows more naturally when mental space is uncluttered. Over time, people begin to recognize that true control lies not in managing external events but in managing internal responses. Ignoring becomes a conscious filter that protects mental well-being. Attention is invested where growth is possible and withdrawn where negativity thrives. This practice ultimately leads to a refined understanding of power. Power is not loud dominance or constant assertion. Real power is quiet composure, thoughtful response, and emotional stability. It is the ability to remain centered regardless of external chaos. As this awareness matures, life feels less like a series of reactions and more like a deliberate journey. Every response becomes intentional. Every engagement becomes meaningful. Emotional peace becomes a natural state rather than a rare experience. And in this state of steady awareness, a final realization begins to surface, that ignoring is not merely a defensive shield or productivity tool, but a profound philosophy for living wisely, where attention becomes the architect of destiny and silence becomes the language of strength. At the highest, situations change unexpectedly, yet something within remains undisturbed. This calm is not accidental. It is the result of long practice in choosing where attention belongs and where it does not. A person starts understanding that peace was never missing, it was only buried under layers of unnecessary engagement. Many struggles lose their weight when seen from a wider perspective. What once felt urgent now appears temporary. What once felt personal now seems circumstantial. This shift happens when the mind stops clinging to every experience. Ignoring becomes less of a strategy and more of a natural response guided by wisdom. Emotional reactions slow down because the need to control every outcome fades. Acceptance begins replacing resistance. The desire to prove oneself slowly dissolves. People often exhaust themselves trying to display their worth through achievements, possessions, or constant explanations. They want recognition, agreement, and admiration. But this pursuit rarely satisfies for long because validation from others is unpredictable. When attention is withdrawn from this endless chase, self-worth stabilizes. A person begins to value inner alignment more than outer applause. Silence gains a new meaning in this stage. It is no longer awkward or empty. Silence becomes a space where clarity grows. Instead of rushing to fill every moment with conversation or distraction, individuals become comfortable with stillness. In that stillness, thoughts settle naturally. Decisions become clearer because they are not influenced by emotional noise. Inner guidance becomes easier to recognize. Emotional freedom also transforms relationships deeply. Attachments become healthier because they are not rooted in dependency. Love becomes less about possession and more about understanding. Expectations become realistic. People allow others to grow at their own pace without constant interference. Ignoring minor imperfections strengthens acceptance. This creates relationships built on respect rather than control. Forgiveness becomes easier as emotional maturity grows. Holding grudges requires continuous emotional energy. Anger must be remembered repeatedly to stay alive. Ignoring the impulse to revisit past hurt weakens resentment. Forgiveness then feels less like an effort and more like a release. Letting go becomes a gift to personal peace rather than a favor to others. Ambition also becomes more refined. The motivation to succeed remains strong, but it is no longer driven by comparison or insecurity. Goals align more closely with personal purpose. Individuals work steadily without needing public attention for every milestone. Ignoring distractions allows deeper focus and sustained progress. Success becomes a journey of self-expression rather than social competition. Fear of missing out gradually disappears. Modern life constantly displays what others are doing, creating pressure to participate in everything. But when attention becomes disciplined, people realize that not every opportunity deserves pursuit. Ignoring unnecessary invitations and trends protects time and energy. Life becomes richer through depth of experience rather than quantity of activities. Patience grows naturally in this mindset. The rush to achieve quickly is replaced by trust in consistent effort. Individuals understand that meaningful growth takes time. Ignoring impatience reduces emotional pressure and prevents impulsive decisions. Progress feels steady and sustainable. Self-awareness deepens as mental clutter reduces. People begin recognizing their emotional patterns clearly. They notice triggers without being controlled by them. Ignoring impulsive reactions allows thoughtful responses aligned with values. This understanding strengthens emotional intelligence. Gratitude becomes more present in everyday life. Instead of focusing on what is lacking, individuals appreciate what already exists. Small joys become meaningful: a peaceful moment, a kind conversation, steady progress. Ignoring constant dissatisfaction allows contentment to grow quietly. Confidence evolves into calm assurance rather than loud display. There is no need to dominate conversations or seek constant recognition. A person trusts their path without external confirmation. Ignoring unnecessary competition preserves emotional energy for meaningful pursuits. Resilience reaches a deeper level. Life's uncertainties no longer create intense emotional swings. Unexpected challenges are faced with steady focus. Ignoring panic allows rational thinking even during difficulty. Emotional balance remains intact despite external fluctuations. As attention becomes more intentional, distractions lose their appeal. Entertainment is enjoyed without addiction. Technology is used without dependency. Need to defend identity or opinions fades. People listen more openly and react less defensively. Ignoring ego-driven impulses fosters humility and mutual respect. Conversations become opportunities for understanding rather than platforms for superiority. Inner peace strengthens to the point where solitude feels nourishing. Being alone no longer creates restlessness. Silence becomes restorative. Reflection becomes enjoyable. Ignoring the fear of loneliness allows deeper connection with oneself. Eventually, life begins to move with natural rhythm rather than forced control. Attention flows toward meaningful priorities effortlessly. Decisions feel aligned with purpose. Emotional responses become balanced and thoughtful. There is a sense of harmony between inner awareness and outer action. At this level, ignoring is no longer something a person tries to practice. It becomes an expression of wisdom. The mind naturally filters what deserves engagement and what does not. Emotional energy is preserved without conscious effort. And in this quiet mastery, a profound truth becomes clear: the quality of life is shaped not by how much a person reacts, but by how wisely they choose their focus. Attention becomes the silent architect of reality. When guided with awareness, it builds a life rooted in clarity, resilience, and deep inner peace. In the end, the most powerful transformations in life happen quietly. There are no dramatic announcements, no visible milestones, and no loud declarations of change. A person simply begins to respond differently. Situations that once caused stress are handled with calm. Opinions that once felt heavy lose their impact. Distractions that once consumed hours no longer seem attractive. From the outside, everything appears normal, yet internally a deep shift has taken place. This silent evolution is the result of mastering attention. Life never stops presenting noise. Responsibilities increase, people behave unpredictably, and circumstances change without warning. Problems do not disappear just because someone chooses peace. What changes is the way those problems are received. Instead of absorbing every disturbance emotionally, a person learns to process experiences with balance. They understand that not every challenge deserves mental suffering. Some situations require action, while others simply require acceptance. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Emotional suffering often increases when resistance becomes stronger than reality. People argue with what has already happened. They replay unwanted events in their minds, wishing circumstances had been different. This internal resistance creates prolonged stress. Ignoring the urge to mentally fight unchangeable situations brings unexpected relief. Acceptance does not mean approval, it means conserving energy for what can actually be influenced. Control becomes more refined through this awareness. Many individuals try to control outcomes, other people's opinions, and future uncertainties. This constant attempt creates anxiety because most external factors remain unpredictable. However, when attention shifts toward controlling personal responses, stability increases. Emotional balance becomes less dependent on external order. This internal control creates a sense of grounded confidence. Simplicity returns to daily living. Overthinking reduces. Conversations become clearer. Decisions require less mental debate. A person begins to trust their intuition because it is no longer drowned by mental noise. Ignoring unnecessary complexity allows natural intelligence to function smoothly. This mental clarity improves problem-solving ability. When emotions are not exaggerated, situations can be evaluated rationally. Solutions appear more easily because attention remains focused on facts rather than assumptions. Ignoring panic creates space for logical thinking. Even difficult challenges feel manageable when approached with calm perspective. Personal values become stronger guides for action. Instead of reacting based on social pressure or emotional impulse, individuals make decisions aligned with principles. Ignoring trends that conflict with personal ethics preserves integrity. Life choices become more authentic and meaningful. Confidence stabilizes into quiet self-assurance. There is no constant need for recognition or reassurance. Individuals trust their preparation, effort, and intentions. Ignoring the desire for constant approval strengthens independence. This confidence feels calm rather than loud. Emotional balance creates better physical well-being. Stress-related fatigue reduces. Sleep improves as mental clutter decreases. Breathing becomes calmer. The body relaxes when the mind stops carrying unnecessary tension. Ignoring avoidable stress supports, reduces friction. Communication becomes sincere because it is not driven by ego. Mutual understanding grows naturally. Failures are handled with maturity. Instead of interpreting setbacks as personal inadequacy, individuals view them as temporary learning experiences. Ignoring self-blame allows quicker recovery. Emotional resilience strengthens through balanced perspective. Success is also experienced differently. Achievements bring satisfaction without creating arrogance. Individuals remain grounded because their identity is not attached to temporary outcomes. Ignoring excessive pride preserves humility and continuous growth. Gratitude deepens as attention shifts toward meaningful experiences. Small moments bring quiet joy. A peaceful walk, meaningful work, or heartfelt conversation becomes fulfilling. Ignoring constant craving for more allows appreciation for what already exists. Life feels less rushed. People stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing intentionally. Ignoring urgency that is not truly important reduces pressure. Time is used more wisely, creating a balanced rhythm between effort and rest. Self-respect strengthens when emotional boundaries are maintained. Individuals no longer tolerate disrespect or manipulation. Ignoring toxic behavior protects dignity. Peace becomes a priority rather than an afterthought. As this mindset becomes natural, attention functions like a guiding light. It highlights what truly matters and leaves the rest in shadow. Emotional energy is invested in growth, connection, and purpose rather than conflict and distraction. A deeper sense of freedom emerges. Freedom from comparison, from constant validation, from emotional dependency, and from the endless cycle of reaction. This freedom is internal and stable. It remains unaffected by external turbulence. Gradually, a person understands that attention shapes experience. Whatever receives focus grows stronger in the mind. By ignoring negativity and emphasizing meaningful priorities, emotional reality transforms. Peace becomes a natural state rather than a rare escape. Life then feels intentional rather than accidental. Choices align with purpose. Actions reflect clarity. Emotions flow without overwhelming the mind. There is harmony between thought, behavior, and values. In this final understanding, ignoring reveals its true meaning. It is not avoidance of responsibility or emotional suppression. It is intelligent selection of focus. It is the art of protecting mental space. It is the discipline of choosing peace over noise. And when this discipline becomes a way of living, life unfolds with quiet strength, guided not by external chaos, but by the steady awareness of where attention truly belongs. When a person finally understands the true value of attention, life begins to feel deeply intentional. Days are no longer lived on autopilot, pulled randomly by notifications, opinions, emotional impulses, and social pressure. Instead, awareness becomes sharper. A person starts noticing where energy is being spent and whether that investment is truly meaningful. This simple awareness changes the rhythm of living. Moments feel more conscious, choices feel more deliberate, and emotional reactions feel less automatic. It becomes clear that attention quietly shapes reality. Whatever the mind focuses on repeatedly begins to dominate emotional experience. If attention constantly rests on problems, life feels heavy. If it stays fixed on comparison, life feels inadequate. If it lingers on past mistakes, life feels regretful. But when attention shifts toward growth, gratitude, and purposeful effort, emotional experience transforms. External circumstances may remain similar, yet inner life feels completely different. People often believe that peace requires perfect conditions. They imagine a future where problems disappear, people behave ideally, finances become stable, and responsibilities reduce. Only then, they think, will relaxation and happiness be possible. But experience slowly teaches a different lesson. Perfect conditions rarely arrive, and waiting for them creates endless dissatisfaction. Peace emerges not from controlling every circumstance but from controlling where attention rests within those circumstances. This realization reduces emotional dependence on outcomes. Effort becomes more important than immediate results. Individuals begin focusing on actions they can control rather than worrying about consequences they cannot predict. Ignoring outcome, obsession reduces anxiety and builds patience. Progress becomes steadier because emotional energy is invested in consistent effort instead of restless expectation. Self-awareness deepens further as people observe how easily the mind gets distracted. Thoughts wander toward him, strengthens concentration. The mind becomes more disciplined, returning to the present moment more easily. Presence becomes richer in daily experiences. Conversations feel more genuine because attention is not divided. Work becomes more engaging because mental clutter is reduced. Even simple activities such as eating, walking, or resting feel more satisfying. Ignoring mental noise allows individuals to experience moments fully instead of rushing through them absent-mindedly. Emotional reactions slow down noticeably. Instead of responding instantly to provocation, individuals pause naturally. This pause creates space for thoughtful action. Words are chosen carefully. Tone becomes calmer. Conflicts reduce because emotional impulses no longer dominate communication. Ignoring the urge to react defensively strengthens relationships and self-respect. Priorities become clearer as distractions lose influence. Individuals begin evaluating commitments thoughtfully rather than agreeing impulsively. They understand that every yes requires time and energy. Ignoring unnecessary obligations creates space for meaningful pursuits. Life feels less overwhelming when commitments align with genuine values. Personal goals also gain sharper focus. Instead of chasing multiple directions simultaneously, individuals invest attention in a few meaningful objectives. Ignoring scattered ambition allows deeper progress. Energy becomes concentrated rather than diluted. Achievements feel more fulfilling because they result from purposeful effort. Emotional independence continues strengthening quietly. Praise no longer creates overexcitement, and criticism no longer causes deep discouragement. Mood becomes less dependent on external reactions. Ignoring emotional extremes creates stability. This balance allows individuals to navigate both success and failure with composure. Resilience grows stronger through repeated practice. Life inevitably brings setbacks, but individuals recover faster when they ignore the temptation to dramatize difficulty. Problems are addressed practically instead of emotionally magnified. This balanced response reduces stress and improves decision-making. A sense of inner freedom becomes more noticeable. Individuals no longer feel compelled to participate in every argument or react to every opinion. They choose engagement consciously. Ignoring unnecessary involvement preserves mental clarity. Time feels more spacious because attention is not constantly scattered. Relationships deepen through intentional presence. Instead of performing for approval, individuals interact authentically. They listen without preparing defensive replies. They express themselves calmly without exaggeration. Ignoring ego-driven communication fosters mutual respect. Gratitude becomes more natural when attention is directed toward meaningful aspects of life. Individuals appreciate progress, learning experiences, supportive relationships, and peaceful moments. Ignoring constant dissatisfaction allows contentment to grow steadily. Confidence transforms into quiet certainty. Individuals trust their decisions without seeking universal approval. Ignoring social comparison protects self-worth. This confidence feels grounded and steady rather than loud and attention-seeking. Over time, the mind becomes a calmer place to live. Thoughts still arise, but they no longer create chaos. Emotions still appear, but they pass without overwhelming stability. Ignoring mental clutter allows clarity to remain intact even during challenges. Life begins to feel guided rather than reactive. Each day unfolds with awareness. Attention is invested carefully, like a valuable resource. Emotional energy is spent where growth is possible and conserved where negativity dominates. A deeper philosophical understanding emerges from this way of living. Individuals recognize that suffering often intensifies when attention clings to what cannot be changed. Letting go mentally does not weaken responsibility, it strengthens adaptability. Ignoring emotional resistance makes space for intelligent action. Eventually, peace stops feeling like a temporary state achieved during vacations or moments of escape. It becomes an everyday experience woven into normal routines. Emotional balance accompanies both busy schedules and quiet evenings. Calmness becomes portable, independent of environment. And in this mature awareness, a final clarity settles in. Life will always offer countless directions for attention, but fulfillment depends on choosing the ones that align with purpose, growth, and inner stability. Everything else can gently fade into the background, carrying no power unless invited by focus. By the time a person reaches this stage of understanding, life begins to feel lighter and living reduces significantly. The mind no longer treats every situation as urgent or personal. A quiet clarity guides reactions, and attention flows more deliberately. This is not detachment from life but a more intelligent form of participation. The biggest change appears in how situations are interpreted. Earlier, small inconveniences felt like major disruptions because the mind exaggerated their importance. Now, perspective becomes wider. A delay is seen as temporary. A disagreement is viewed as a difference in perception. A mistake is treated as a lesson rather than a failure. Ignoring the tendency to magnify problems allows emotional balance to remain steady. Life feels manageable because events are seen in proportion. Emotional ownership becomes stronger. Instead of blaming circumstances or people for internal disturbance, individuals recognize their role in choosing reactions. This awareness creates empowerment. When attention is guided consciously, emotional experience becomes less dependent on external behavior. Ignoring provocation becomes easier because peace is valued more than momentary satisfaction. The habit of mental decluttering strengthens further. Just as physical spaces feel lighter when unnecessary items are removed, the mind feels calmer when useless thoughts are ignored. Worry about others' opinions reduces. Replaying past conversations becomes less frequent. Imagining negative futures loses its appeal. This mental simplicity creates space for creativity and thoughtful planning. Focus sharpens naturally. When distractions are filtered out, attention can rest fully on the task at hand. Work becomes more efficient and less exhausting. Listening becomes more attentive. Learning becomes deeper. Ignoring interruptions protects cognitive energy and improves performance across activities. Self-dialogue becomes kinder and more constructive. The harsh inner critic gradually loses influence when its negative commentary is ignored. Encouraging thoughts replace judgmental ones. Mistakes are acknowledged without emotional punishment. This compassionate internal environment strengthens confidence and resilience. Patience evolves into a natural temperament rather than forced behavior. Individuals no longer rush outcomes unnecessarily. They understand that growth has its own rhythm. Ignoring impatience reduces frustration and prevents impulsive decisions. Efforts become steady and consistent, producing more reliable progress. Emotional maturity becomes visible in communication style. Conversations are calmer and more meaningful. There is less need to interrupt, argue aggressively, or dominate discussions. Ignoring ego-driven impulses allows respectful dialogue. Others feel heard and valued, strengthening trust and cooperation. This mindset also reshapes how uncertainty is handled. Instead of fearing unpredictability, individuals accept it as part of life's nature. Ignoring the demand for complete certainty reduces anxiety. Flexibility replaces rigidity, making adaptation easier when plans change unexpectedly. Personal boundaries become clearer without aggressive enforcement. Individuals no longer feel guilty for protecting their mental space. Ignoring unreasonable demands or manipulative behavior becomes an act of self-respect. Boundaries are maintained calmly, without hostility, preserving both dignity and relationships. A deeper appreciation for simplicity emerges. Excessive desires begin to lose their intensity. People realize that constant craving creates restlessness, while contentment creates stability. Ignoring unnecessary wants allows gratitude for present resources. Life feels abundant without requiring extravagance. Resilience strengthens at its core. Emotional recovery from setbacks becomes quicker because individuals no longer dwell excessively on disappointment. Ignoring self-pity prevents prolonged suffering. Energy is redirected toward problem-solving and forward movement. Confidence becomes deeply internalized. There is no pressure to display success publicly or prove competence repeatedly. Ignoring social validation creates a quiet sense of assurance. Individuals trust their preparation and intentions without external confirmation. Relationships benefit from emotional steadiness. People feel safe communicating with someone who listens calmly and reacts thoughtfully. Ignoring small irritations reduces unnecessary tension. Empathy increases because emotional space is available for understanding others. Time feels more expansive when attention is not constantly fragmented. Individuals become more present in each activity, whether working, resting, or interacting. Ignoring multitasking improves quality of experience and reduces mental fatigue. Gradually, life begins to feel aligned. Thoughts act to become clearer. A profound sense of inner security develops. External praise or criticism loses its power to disturb balance. Success does not create arrogance, and failure does not create despair. Emotional equilibrium remains steady across changing circumstances. This stability fosters deeper self-connection. Individuals become comfortable with solitude and reflective thinking. Ignoring constant stimulation reveals insights about personal aspirations and values. Inner awareness strengthens intuitive decision-making. The journey of selective ignoring ultimately reveals a powerful truth. Peace is not found by escaping responsibilities but by engaging with them wisely. Attention becomes a guiding force that determines emotional quality and direction of life. And as this understanding settles deeply, one final realization emerges. The mind becomes a peaceful place not when the world becomes silent, but when attention learns to rest only on what truly deserves presence, allowing everything else to pass without disturbance. There is a quiet moment in personal evolution when a person realizes that nothing outside has truly changed, yet everything inside feels different. The same world exists with its noise, pressure, unpredictability, and constant motion, but the inner experience of living has softened. Situations no longer feel as heavy, interactions no longer feel as draining, and time no longer feels like it is slipping away uncontrollably. This shift happens when attention becomes disciplined enough to serve peace rather than chaos. At this stage, awareness becomes almost effortless. A person can sense when something deserves mental space and when it is better to let it pass. This discernment feels natural, like an internal compass guiding focus. Emotional reactions no longer jump forward impulsively. Instead, there is a pause, a small but powerful gap where understanding replaces instinct. In that pause lies emotional freedom. People begin to notice how much suffering once came from mental resistance. They fought situations internally, replayed unwanted events, and tried to control uncontrollable outcomes. That silent internal struggle created exhaustion far greater than the events themselves. Now, ignoring the urge to mentally wrestle with reality brings relief. Acceptance becomes a source of strength rather than surrender. Emotional balance grows more stable because attention no longer feeds negativity unnecessarily. A critical remark may be heard but not carried for hours. A minor setback may be acknowledged but not dramatized. The mind processes experiences without clinging to them. This lightness allows daily life to feel smoother and less overwhelming. A deeper sense of self-trust emerges. Individuals become comfortable making decisions without seeking constant reassurance. They listen to advice but do not feel dependent on approval. Ignoring conflicting external voices strengthens clarity of judgment. Confidence grows from internal alignment rather than social validation. This inner steadiness also reshapes ambition. Goals are pursued with commitment but without emotional desperation. Success becomes meaningful, yet failure no longer feels like personal collapse. Ignoring extreme emotional swings allows steady progress. Motivation flows from purpose rather than pressure. The mind becomes less interested in comparison. Observing others' achievements no longer triggers inadequacy. Instead, it inspires learning or appreciation. Ignoring competitive insecurity protects self-worth. Each journey is seen as unique, shaped by different circumstances and timelines. Relationships become more peaceful because emotional expectations grow realistic. People are accepted as imperfect individuals rather than idealized figures. Ignoring minor flaws prevents unnecessary disappointment. Communication becomes gentler because reactions are guided by empathy rather than ego. Forgiveness deepens naturally in this emotional climate. Old resentments lose intensity when they are no longer revisited repeatedly. Ignoring the impulse to reopen past wounds allows healing. Letting go becomes easier when attention is directed toward present well-being rather than historical pain. A sense of emotional independence becomes permanent. Loneliness reduces because individuals feel comfortable with themselves. Solitude becomes a space for reflection rather than emptiness. Ignoring the fear of being alone strengthens inner companionship. Mental clarity enhances creativity and problem-solving. Without constant distraction, thoughts flow more smoothly. Complex challenges are approached with patience. Ignoring panic allows logical analysis and thoughtful solutions. Gratitude becomes a natural emotional state. Attention shifts toward meaningful aspects for dominance. Conversations no longer revolve around proving superiority. Listening becomes more important than winning arguments. Ignoring ego-driven impulses fosters humility and stronger human connection. Resilience becomes deeply rooted. Unexpected disruptions no longer create emotional chaos. Individuals adapt calmly and recover steadily. Ignoring the tendency to magnify difficulties allows practical responses. Personal boundaries are maintained with quiet confidence. There is no need for dramatic confrontation or justification. Ignoring disrespectful behavior sends a clear message without emotional escalation. Dignity remains intact. Time feels richer because attention is fully present. Moments are experienced completely rather than partially. Ignoring mental distraction enhances focus and enjoyment in simple activities. This sustained presence leads to deeper self-awareness. Emotional patterns become easier to recognize and regulate. Ignoring impulsive reactions strengthens thoughtful behavior aligned with personal values. A lasting sense of calm becomes the foundation of living. Peace is no longer dependent on external silence or perfect conditions. It exists internally, steady and accessible even during busy or uncertain times. Life begins to unfold with a sense of natural flow. There is less forcing and more allowing. Attention moves gracefully toward meaningful priorities and away from draining distractions. Decisions reflect wisdom rather than impulse. The most profound realization quietly settles in: strength is not loud, control is not forceful, and peace is not passive. True power lies in calm awareness, in choosing focus wisely, and in allowing unnecessary noise to fade without resistance. And in this quiet mastery of attention, life transforms into a balanced, purposeful journey where emotional freedom is not something to chase, but something that naturally exists when the mind learns what to hold and what to gently let go. There is a profound simplicity that reveals itself when a person finally stops trying to engage with everything. Life, which once felt complicated and emotionally demanding, begins to feel more spacious. The same responsibilities remain, the same people are present, and the same world continues moving at its restless pace, yet the inner experience becomes calmer and more organized. This transformation happens not because life becomes easier, but because attention becomes wiser. At this stage, individuals recognize that mental peace is not created by controlling situations but by choosing which situations deserve emotional investment. They understand that attention works like a spotlight. Whatever it illuminates becomes significant, and whatever remains outside its focus gradually loses influence. When this spotlight is directed carefully, emotional energy is preserved for meaningful priorities rather than wasted on trivial disturbances. A person begins to notice how many past conflicts were prolonged simply because they kept feeding them attention. Replaying arguments, imagining better responses, and mentally defending personal pride kept emotional wounds fresh. Now, by ignoring the urge to relive those moments, emotional healing accelerates. The mind stops reopening chapters that no longer serve growth. Emotional detachment deepens, but it does not create coldness. Instead, it fosters balanced involvement. Individuals care sincerely, yet they do not drown in emotional turbulence. They participate fully in life without losing their internal stability. Ignoring emotional extremes prevents exhaustion and preserves compassion. Priorities become increasingly refined. Activities and relationships that genuinely add value receive full attention. Superficial engagements gradually lose appeal. This natural filtering creates a lifestyle centered on depth rather than distraction. Time feels more meaningful because it is invested intentionally. Personal discipline strengthens quietly. Ignoring impulses that seek immediate comfort allows long-term goals to flourish. Whether in health, learning, career, or relationships, consistent small efforts replace dramatic but short-lived bursts of motivation. Progress becomes steady and reliable. Emotional intelligence reaches a mature level. Individuals sense their feelings clearly without becoming controlled by them. They observe emotional waves with awareness and allow them to pass naturally. Ignoring impulsive expression prevents unnecessary conflict and regret. This calm awareness also enhances listening. Conversations become more genuine because attention is fully present. Instead of preparing counterarguments or seeking validation, individuals listen with openness. Ignoring ego-driven reactions fosters deeper understanding and trust. Gratitude meant. Ignoring the constant desire for excitement reveals beauty in normalcy. Self-worth stabilizes into a quiet certainty. There is less need to impress others or prove personal value repeatedly. Individuals feel comfortable in their own identity. Ignoring social comparison protects this self-assurance. Fear loses much of its influence. Challenges are approached with preparation rather than panic. Ignoring imagined worst-case scenarios reduces anxiety and allows rational thinking. Courage becomes a habit formed through repeated calm responses. The mind becomes a supportive companion rather than a constant critic. Negative self-talk weakens as individuals ignore harsh internal judgments. Encouraging thoughts gradually replace destructive ones. This internal kindness nurtures confidence and emotional well-being. Relationships benefit deeply from this emotional steadiness. People feel respected and understood when interactions are not clouded by overreaction. Ignoring minor irritations prevents unnecessary arguments. Patience and empathy grow naturally. Resilience solidifies as a permanent trait. Setbacks are processed without emotional collapse. Individuals recover with practical focus and renewed effort. Ignoring self-pity prevents prolonged stagnation. Life's unpredictability becomes easier to accept. Individuals stop demanding perfect outcomes and start adapting gracefully to change. Ignoring rigid expectations reduces disappointment and fosters flexibility. A deep sense of inner freedom develops. Individuals no longer feel trapped by others' opinions, past mistakes, or future uncertainties. Ignoring mental chains creates psychological independence. Choices feel authentic and self-directed. Attention becomes a powerful tool for creation. When focused deliberately, it strengthens learning, creativity, and meaningful work. Ignoring distractions enhances mastery and depth of skill. Silence becomes comforting rather than uncomfortable. Solitude turns into a space for reflection and renewal. Ignoring constant stimulation allows deeper connection with personal values and aspirations. A natural harmony emerges between thought and action. Decisions are no longer rushed by emotional pressure. Ignoring impulsiveness strengthens wise judgment. Life flows with steady rhythm rather than chaotic urgency. Over time, this way of living becomes effortless. Ignoring is no longer a technique practiced consciously, it becomes a natural expression of clarity. The mind automatically filters noise and focuses on significance. A profound understanding finally settles in. Peace was never hidden in distant achievements or perfect environments. It was always available in the simple act of choosing where attention rests. By ignoring what drains energy and nurturing what strengthens purpose, life becomes balanced and deeply fulfilling. In this quiet realization, living transforms into a graceful experience. Each day feels intentional. Each moment carries awareness. Emotional storms pass without leaving lasting damage. Inner stability remains firm regardless of external change. And from this deep clarity emerges the ultimate truth. The art of ignoring is not about rejecting the world, but about engaging with it wisely, protecting the mind space, and allowing attention to shape a life guided by purpose, resilience, and lasting inner peace. When awareness reaches its most refined state, a person begins to live with a quiet sense of mastery that does not need recognition. Nothing dramatic announces this change. There is no visible transformation that the world can easily notice. Yet internally, everything operates differently. The mind feels lighter, emotions feel balanced, and reactions feel measured. Life continues with its usual unpredictability, but inner steadiness no longer shakes with every external movement. At this point, a person clearly understands that attention is the foundation of emotional experience. Wherever focus lingers, emotional energy gathers. If the mind clings to negativity, life feels burdensome. If it clings to comparison, self-worth weakens. If it clings to fear, confidence shrinks. But when attention is directed toward growth, understanding, and meaningful action, life feels purposeful and calm. This awareness becomes so natural that filtering distractions requires no conscious effort. Emotional reactions slow to a thoughtful pace. Situations are observed before being judged. Words are heard without immediate interpretation. This pause between experience and response becomes a powerful space of freedom. Within it, wisdom guides behavior instead of impulse. The habit of ignoring emotional noise strengthens this pause, allowing clarity to lead. A person also stops personalizing everything. Earlier, many events, unnecessary personalization prevents emotional exhaustion and reduces conflict. The need for external approval fades almost completely. Individuals no longer measure their value by how much praise they receive or how little criticism they face. They understand that public opinion constantly shifts and cannot define inner worth. Ignoring this external scoreboard creates deep emotional independence. Peace begins to feel like a constant background presence rather than a temporary visitor. Even during busy schedules or challenging periods, an inner calm remains steady. This stability does not come from avoiding responsibility but from engaging with it wisely. Attention stays centered on solutions rather than emotional drama. The mind becomes more selective about where it invests energy. Conversations that lack purpose lose appeal. Arguments that serve ego rather than understanding are gently avoided. Distractions that once felt irresistible now appear unimportant. Ignoring what diminishes focus strengthens meaningful engagement. Personal growth accelerates because mental space is no longer overcrowded. Learning becomes deeper. Creativity flows more naturally. Thoughtful reflection replaces restless consumption of information. Attention becomes a tool for mastery rather than a victim of constant stimulation. Emotional intelligence reaches a refined level. Individuals recognize subtle emotional shifts within themselves and others. They respond with empathy while maintaining personal balance. Ignoring emotional contagion prevents absorbing unnecessary negativity. Gratitude becomes woven into daily awareness. Instead of waiting for special achievements to feel satisfied, individuals appreciate steady progress and simple joys. Ignoring habitual dissatisfaction reveals quiet abundance in ordinary life. Relationships become more authentic and less demanding. Emotional dependence fades, allowing connections based on respect and understanding. Ignoring minor imperfections strengthens harmony. People feel valued for who they are rather than who they are expected to be. Resilience becomes deeply integrated into personality. Unexpected setbacks no longer create emotional collapse. Challenges are met with composed determination. Ignoring the impulse to exaggerate difficulty allows practical problem solving. Confidence evolves into silent assurance. There is no urge to prove superiority or seek constant validation. Individuals trust their journey without comparison. Ignoring social competition preserves focus on personal goals. Time feels more expansive and meaningful. Attention remains present instead of scattered. Moments are experienced fully, whether during work, rest, or interaction. Ignoring distractions enhances the richness of experience. A deeper spiritual awareness often emerges alongside this clarity. Individuals sense the value of stillness and reflection. Silence becomes nourishing. Ignoring constant external noise allows connection with deeper purpose. The ego softens its constant demand for recognition. Conversations become collaborative rather than competitive. Listening becomes genuine. Ignoring ego-driven impulses fosters humility and mutual respect. Self-discipline strengthens naturally. Healthy habits form without internal struggle. Ignoring temporary temptations allows long-term benefits to unfold steadily. Consistency becomes effortless when attention remains aligned with priorities. Life begins to flow with greater harmony. Decisions are guided by principles rather than emotional swings. Actions reflect intention rather than reaction. Ignoring mental clutter allows values to shape behavior clearly. A profound sense of freedom becomes permanent. Individuals are no longer controlled by fear, comparison, or emotional dependency. Ignoring these mental chains creates independence that cannot be easily shaken by external events. At this level of maturity, ignoring becomes indistinguishable from wisdom. It is no longer a technique but a natural expression of understanding. The mind quietly filters what deserves engagement and releases what does not. This way of living reveals a final and powerful truth. Strength does not come from dominating circumstances but from mastering inner responses. Peace does not require silence in the world but clarity in attention. Fulfillment does not arise from constant achievement but from meaningful presence. And in this calm mastery, life unfolds as a deliberate journey shaped by awareness, guided by purpose, and protected by the quiet power of choosing where attention belongs, allowing everything unnecessary to fade gently into the background. As understanding deepens to its final layers, life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a steady unfolding. The constant urge to react no longer feels pulled by every emotional current. Instead, there is a grounded presence that remains steady regardless of how circumstances shift. This steadiness is not created by withdrawing from responsibilities or avoiding people. It comes from participating fully while remaining internally balanced. Situations are handled with care, conversations are approached with patience, and decisions are made with clarity. The difference lies in what is allowed to enter the mind and what is gently left outside. Ignoring becomes a silent boundary that protects mental space without creating emotional walls. At this stage, individuals no longer feel the need to chase every opportunity or respond to every demand. They understand that saying yes to everything means saying no to peace. Attention is treated as a valuable resource, invested carefully in activities and relationships that truly matter. Ignoring unnecessary engagements creates space for meaningful contribution and thoughtful rest. Emotional reactions become softer and more refined. Anger fades quickly because it is not fueled by repetitive thoughts. Disappointment passes gently because expectations remain realistic. Criticism is examined calmly without becoming a personal wound. Ignoring emotional exaggeration allows feelings to move naturally without turning into prolonged disturbances. The mind develops a natural preference for simplicity. Complications created by overthinking gradually disappear. Individuals stop searching for hidden meanings in every word or gesture. They respond to what is real instead of what is imagined. Ignoring assumptions prevents misunderstanding and reduces mental strain. This clarity strengthens personal values. Choices are guided by principles rather than social pressure. Individuals no longer feel compelled to follow trends that conflict with their beliefs. Ignoring external influence preserves authenticity and builds self-respect. A deep emotional independence settles within. People enjoy companionship but do not rely on it for stability. They appreciate appreciation but do not depend on it for motivation. Ignoring emotional dependency allows relationships to flourish without burden. Silence becomes a trusted companion. Moments of solitude are welcomed as opportunities for reflection and renewal. Ignoring the constant need for stimulation reveals the richness of stillness. In quiet moments, insights surface naturally and creativity awakens. Gratitude becomes an effortless emotional state. Individuals begin noticing the value of simple experiences, steady health, supportive people, meaningful work, peaceful surroundings. Ignoring constant craving allows contentment to grow steadily. Resilience becomes instinctive. When difficulties arise, the mind does not rush toward panic. Instead, it evaluates circumstances calmly and responds with patience. Ignoring worst-case imagination prevents emotional overwhelm and supports practical solutions. Self-worth stabilizes completely. There is no urge to impress others through appearance, possessions, or constant explanation. Individuals feel comfortable being themselves without performance. Ignoring comparison protects this quiet confidence. Relationships reflect this emotional maturity. Communication becomes sincere and respectful. People feel heard because reactions are thoughtful rather than impulsive. Ignoring minor irritations prevents unnecessary conflict and strengthens mutual understanding. Time feels more meaningful when attention remains present. Each activity receives full involvement, whether it is work, rest, or conversation. Ignoring multitasking reduces mental fatigue and improves quality of experience. Personal growth continues naturally without pressure. Learning becomes enjoyable rather than competitive. Effort is consistent rather than dramatic. Ignoring the rush for quick results allows mastery to develop steadily. A harmonious balance forms between ambition and peace. Individuals strive for progress while maintaining emotional stability. Success is pursued with dedication but without anxiety. Ignoring outcome obsession reduces stress and builds patience. Inner dialogue becomes supportive and kind. Self-criticism loses its harshness when ignored. Encouragement replaces judgment. This internal positivity strengthens motivation and emotional well-being. Life begins to feel guided rather than forced. At this final stage of awareness, a person understands that true strength is gentle, not aggressive. Control is quiet, not forceful. Confidence is calm, not loud. Ignoring becomes an expression of wisdom that protects peace without isolating the individual from life. The mind no longer seeks constant engagement because it has discovered the value of selective focus. Emotional energy is preserved for love, growth, creativity, and purposeful action. Everything else is allowed to pass without resistance. And in this calm and steady way of living, the ultimate realization becomes clear. The quality of life is determined not by how much one experiences, but by how wisely one chooses what to give attention to, allowing peace to remain constant while the world continues its restless motion. There comes a final stage in this journey where understanding no longer feels like something learned, but something lived. The ideas that once required conscious practice now operate quietly in the background of everyday life. A person wakes up with a clear mind, moves through responsibilities with steady focus, and interacts with others without emotional heaviness. Nothing extraordinary appears on the surface, yet the inner experience of living has transformed completely. Life feels lighter, not because there are fewer challenges, but because there is less unnecessary resistance. At this point, attention has become disciplined in a natural and effortless way. The mind no longer runs behind every distraction or emotional impulse. Thoughts arise, but they do not carry the same force as before. Emotions appear, but they pass without creating storms. Situations unfold, but they do not disturb inner balance. Ignoring has matured into quiet wisdom, a filter that allows only what truly matters to enter the mental space. People who reach this state often realize how much energy was once wasted on proving themselves. They tried to justify choices, defend opinions, and seek validation from those who never truly understood them. Now, there is comfort in letting actions speak quietly. There is no urgency to explain every decision or correct every misconception. Ignoring the need for constant validation brings a deep sense of relief. The ego softens into humility. Conversations no longer feel like arenas for dominance. Listening becomes more valuable than speaking. Understanding becomes more important than winning. Ignoring ego-driven reactions allows interactions to flow naturally, strengthening both respect and connection. A steady emotional rhythm defines daily living. Joy is experienced fully without fear of losing it. Disappointment is processed calmly without exaggeration. Success is appreciated without arrogance. Failure is accepted without self-rejection. Ignoring emotional extremes keeps the mind balanced and grounded. The relationship with time also changes beautifully. Moments are not rushed unnecessarily. Individuals give full attention to whatever they are doing. Work becomes more meaningful, rest becomes more refreshing, and conversations become more genuine. Ignoring the pressure to constantly hurry creates a sense of spaciousness within daily routines. Worry loses its habitual grip. The mind understands that many fears are projections rather than realities. Ignoring imagined scenarios prevents emotional exhaustion. Energy is redirected toward preparation and constructive action instead of mental rehearsal of problems that may never occur. A quiet confidence becomes permanent. There is no need to appear strong because inner stability already exists. External praise feels pleasant but not essential. Criticism is considered thoughtfully but does not wound deeply. Ignoring the emotional weight of public opinion preserves independence. Personal goals continue to inspire effort, yet they are pursued without desperation. Ambition becomes calm and focused, gratitude grows deeper roots. Instead of chasing dramatic highs, individuals find fulfillment in steady progress and simple joys. A peaceful environment, meaningful work, supportive relationships, and moments of stillness feel deeply satisfying. Ignoring constant craving reveals abundance within ordinary life. Emotional resilience becomes second nature. Unexpected setbacks are handled with thoughtful composure. The mind quickly shifts from frustration to problem solving. Ignoring self-pity shortens recovery time and strengthens adaptability. Relationships reflect this maturity. Emotional exchanges are guided by patience and empathy. Small misunderstandings no longer escalate into conflict. Ignoring minor imperfections fosters acceptance and harmony. Self-awareness remains steady and clear. Individuals recognize emotional triggers without being controlled by them. Ignoring impulsive reactions strengthens thoughtful responses aligned with deeper values. Silence becomes a place of renewal. Solitude is no longer associated with loneliness. Ignoring the need for constant stimulation allows reflection, creativity, and inner clarity to flourish. Life feels aligned from within. Thoughts, actions, and values move in the same direction. Decisions are made with confidence because they arise from understanding rather than pressure. Ignoring distractions protects this alignment. A profound emotional freedom emerges, freedom from comparison, from constant approval seeking, from exaggerated fear, and from unnecessary conflict. Attention is no longer scattered but invested with purpose. At this stage, ignoring is no longer something a person tries to practice. It becomes a natural expression of maturity. The mind automatically releases what is trivial and embraces what is meaningful. This way of living reveals a quiet but powerful truth. Peace is not something to chase in distant achievements or perfect circumstances. It is created in small, consistent moments where attention is guided wisely and unnecessary noise is allowed to fade. Life then unfolds gently, like a steady stream flowing without resistance. Each experience is met with awareness. Each challenge is faced with balance. Each success is welcomed with humility. And in this calm completeness, one final realization settles peacefully within: mastering attention is mastering life itself, because where attention rests determines emotional experience, shapes personal growth, and quietly builds a life of clarity, resilience, purpose, and lasting inner peace.